If you've ever heard somebody talk about the event, or Cythera, and weren't sure what they meant, then you've come to the right place. What's up everybody, Jeff here, and today we're doing part 2 of the introduction to the lore guide. If you haven't seen the first one, I'll link that video up in the card so you can check it out. That video covers the history of Earth right up until about 1900, after the second breach opens. This video is going to pick up in 1901, and we're going to cover all the major world events that have had a significant impact on the story right up through Malifaux burns. So we're basically covering the whole time period that the narrative of the game takes place in. This will be a great way to catch you up if you haven't been keeping up with the lore, and it'll also be a great companion to some of the other episodes of the lore guide. In some of the master videos, you might hear reference to the event, the Governor General dying, or Cythera, but if that character wasn't involved, there wouldn't be a lot of context. This video should be able to fill in those gaps. As always, there's going to be major spoilers here. Unfortunately, there's no way to do a video like this without them, so keep that in mind and maybe watch your favorite Masters video before you come back and watch this. While you're here, please like the video and make sure you subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next few episodes. I recently started a Discord server for the channel, so if you like Malifaux lore or just want to meet like-minded people who are into the hobby and games, then definitely come on over there and say hi. With that all being said, let's get into the major world events of Malifaux. An expedition in the bayou sees the discovery of the Cythera device, a large structure that was once used by Titania to fight off the tyrants, but is actually a portal to another realm where the grave spirit waits to enter this world and destroy all life. A member of the expedition accidentally starts to open Cythera, and the Neverborn sense it. They track down every member of the expedition and kill them with poison, all save for Philip Tumors, who survives because he's committed to a sanitarium. Lilith attempts to get him, but Rasputina, who has come under the influence of the tyrant December, is also after Philip. The two women fight, and in a scuffle, Philip dies, but his head is later resurrected by Seamus. A woman named Victoria comes through the breach, and though she's unaware of it, she's been summoned by the Neverborn. She gets attacked by a doppelganger, who is supposed to kill her and take her place, but Victoria wields the Masamune, a legendary sword that's possessed by the tyrant Shazul. When she slashes the doppelganger, the sword doesn't hurt it, but takes its soul, and in its place it leaves a copy of Victoria herself, complete with all of the woman's memories. Meanwhile, Seamus, Molly, and Rasputina are captured by Sonia and Lady Justice. When Justice finds out that closing Cythera can end necromancy once and for all, the two women bring their prisoners to the structure in the bayou. They intend to use Rasputina to conduct the ritual to fully close the device, and Rasputina speaks the words, closing off the portal. This rids the world of the grave spirit's influence, causing the tyrants to regain some of their power, and December manifests himself in a physical form, and easily bats Lady Justice and Sonia aside. Just in time, the Victorias arrive, and cut the tyrant's body down with the Masamune, just like Kenshiro had a century before. While this is going on, Molly helps Seamus get free of his shackles, and the tyrant, the Gorgon, whispers in his ear the words he needs to open Cythera again. As the portal begins to fully open, the grave spirit tries to make his way through, and the onlookers are helpless to stop it, until Ramos arrives, in his giant construct, the Leviathan. He begins firing at the creature, but it has no effect, so he instead turns his weapons on the structure, destroying it and causing the portal to collapse before the grave spirit can finish transitioning. With the grave spirit's influence reduced, many of the tyrants are empowered. When a labor dispute erupts, riots break out in the streets of Malifaux, and a burning building collapses, causing a cave-in that falls into the underground beneath the city. This cave-in causes a rat catcher by the name of Hamlin to accidentally stumble upon the resting place of the tyrant Plague. The tyrant forces his essence into the pests and vermin that live in the underground, and those creatures devour Hamlin, and then take on his form. Soon, the Piper's Plague begins spreading around the city. A long time ago, Plague had invented a device that amplifies energy that he intended to use in order to ascend, before the tyrants were all defeated by Titania. Now, he has half of the device, but the other half is in possession of a girl named Karai, who got it from her former boyfriend, Francis Kitchener, who was also the son of the Governor General. Francis was killed when the Governor General ordered Karai to be assassinated, as his son shouldn't be consorting with prostitutes. The job is botched, and the would-be assassins kill Francis instead. Now, Karai is working with Nicodem to try to learn to control her power, to summon spirits from the underworld. Plague attacks his compound in the quarantine zone, at the same time that the Death Marshals under Lady Justice attack as well. Plague is able to get the key, and he uses the device to make the red cage fall out of the sky. This cage was a prison for Sharufe, another one of the tyrants, and it crashes down into the bayou. What Plague was not expecting was that Karai was touched by the Gorgon, and she uses her ability to call on spirits and defeat him. Without Plague there to capture the rush of magical energy that gets emitted when the red cage falls, the energy propagates out across Malifaux in a purple wave. This becomes known as the event. The wave of energy passes over most people with no effect, but all powerful magic users find that their abilities become supercharged. Those that are able to harness this power find that they can manifest their avatar forms, something less like a human and more like a tyrant. The red cage falling causes a huge crater in the bayou, and mechanical and undead monsters begin pouring out. It also releases the tyrant Shirufei, who hides away in the necropolis under the city while he waits for his chosen host, Sonia Crid. He binds himself to the woman and intends to use her ability to control fire to burn down the city, but Samael Hopkins is able to use a magic dampening mask to contain the outpour of energy. The Katanaka crime family from the Three Kingdoms finds a second breach to Malifaux that leads from the mainland of China to the mountains north of the city. Their leader sends his daughter Misaki, as well as a steady stream of his people, to begin filtering their way into Malifaux and settling in the Little Kingdom. They start calling themselves the Ten Thunders and begin taking over territory from other gangs. Any gang that's defeated has a chance to join them if they show respect, and any who refuse are hanged in the streets. Soon, Misaki's father, the Oyabun, joins her in Malifaux, and she helps him to collect information as the organization begins sending its agents to infiltrate other powerful groups. One of their recruits is a monk named Shenlong, who is actually the current host of the tyrant, the Dragon. The guild's power and influence has begun waning on Earth. When the British recall some of their troops back home, it lessens the guild presence in India and the Three Kingdoms, weakening their hold over the two nations. The people of India rebel, and the guild come down hard and crush the rebellion, but this causes doubt among the other nations of Earth. The Ottomans and the Russians begin distancing themselves from the guild, and soon the Three Kingdoms rise up in outright rebellion. They're led by a man known as the Boxer, who is also Mei Fang's brother, and with their support from the Ten Thunders, the guild struggle to oppose the rebellion. The Ten Thunders, meanwhile, use this instability to recruit people to come through the breach to secure their own power in Malifaux. A woman named Tara finds her way into the timeless void that serves as the prison for the tyrant Obliteration. She spends the equivalent of thousands of years there, which causes most of the other unfortunate visitors to go insane. She meets and befriends a necromancer named Karina, and eventually finds her way to the center of the prison, where Obliteration offers her a bit of its power in exchange for helping escape. She accepts, and when she returns to the world, she finds that only a few minutes have passed. A guild sniper then shoots her in the chest, and her friend Karina brings her back to life. After the event took place, Governor General Kitchener set out on a quest to become a tyrant himself. As part of that process, he sets out on a tour of the contract towns, handing out plaques that serve as a symbol of his rule over the people. In the town of Sunbeam, the Miners and Steamfitters Union protests the guild presence, though they're being secretly influenced by the Ten Thunders, who are already aware of his plans. Mei Fang stands against the Governor General, and the two both manifest their avatar forms. They fight to a catastrophic stalemate, and the ordeal convinces the Governor General that he's running out of time. When he returns to his mansion, he sets out to perform the ritual using arcane relics that he was having his agents collect. Unbeknownst to him, one of his agents, Lucas McCabe, was a Ten Thunders operative, and he swapped out one of the relics for some bones that came from the physical remains of one of the tyrants. When he begins the ritual, the bones cause a surge of energy that's too much for the Governor General to handle. The tyrant Shirufei senses this buildup of power and tries to seize it for himself. Shirufei and the Governor General's essences meld together as the mansion explodes. The new entity they become is the Burning Man, and it travels back in time to the day of the battle with Mei Fang. It also pierces the veil between worlds and appears in the sky above San Francisco. The people of the city, who are susceptible to the Burning Man's power, start to go insane. Its presence also causes breaches to open up between the worlds, and monsters begin appearing on Earth. The Burning Man travels around the world, causing similar incidents, until it eventually stops in the skies of London. Portals begin opening that connect London to the oceans of Malifaux, causing a flood of seawater, and bringing with it the gibbering hordes. These aquatic creatures swarm over the city, as the humans do what they can to resist, in what will become known as the Battle of London. The Governor General's ritual also causes the energy from the event to dissipate, meaning that the masters of the world will no longer be able to manifest their avatars. It also causes the effigies, small puppets created by Zoraida to spy on the different organizations within Malifaux, to transform into the emissaries. With the Governor General dead, there's a power vacuum in Malifaux, and Lucius steps up and causes the guild to come down hard on the Miners and Steamfitters Union, blaming them for the Governor General's death. Some see this power vacuum as an opportunity, and Nicodem marshals his armies of undead and tries to take over the city. The Death Marshals try to stand against him, but it seems inevitable they'll fail, when suddenly a mysterious force attacks the zombies' flanks and causes them to retreat. This force was led by Misaki, who had decided that while she doesn't mind her enemies fighting each other, she does not want a necromancer in charge of the city, who would be harder to predict and harder to exploit than the guild. Rumors of a discovery of Neverborn ruins start to circulate around the city. Researchers look into ancient Neverborn texts and find that these ruins are called Cythera, and they're rumored to contain a powerful weapon. mercenary groups begin trying to make their way to Cythera to claim this weapon, while the Neverborn try to stop them. The Free Corps and the Cult of December each manage to get past the Neverborn and then encounter each other. The weapon in Cythera is actually Titania, Queen of the Fae, who had been entombed for centuries after defeating the tyrants. Rasputina and December want to keep her there, so they try to stop the Free Corps from accidentally releasing her, but while they're all distracted, another mercenary group gets past them, and Titania is released. The Autumn Queen senses the presence of the tyrants, and immediately begins trying to organize the Neverborn to unite them under her rule. Many of them are not happy to see her. Soon, a new Governor General arrives, by the name of Franco Marlowe, and he immediately begins stopping the persecution of the Miners and Steamfitters Union, much to the surprise of the new Union president, Tony Ironsides. On Earth, cults begin to organize under the power and influence of the Burning Man, and one of their followers goes to a meeting of the Minerva Council, the ruling body of the guild, and sets off a bomb. A significant portion of guild leadership is killed in the attack. The guild's power is continuing to wane on Earth, as the nations of the world continue to distance themselves. The Three Kingdoms rebellion continues, and they seem to be on the verge of obtaining independence. In Malifaux, things are much better, as the new Governor General brings some much-needed stability to the guild, and ends most of the vindictive policies that were put into place by Lucius. Nicodem, who's still angry about the failure of his attack against the guild, starts to look into who interfered with the assault. He suspects that it's a member of the Ten Thunders, but when he starts asking his contacts, they're unwilling to give him any information. Lady Justice, meanwhile, starts trying to investigate to find out who the necromancer was that led the attack. She starts to think that they may be hiding the undead right under the guild's nose, and starts investigating crematoriums and funeral homes. She soon meets with Governor General Marlowe, who is concerned about her using the undead to fight off the undead. She insists that her marshals are not undead, and he tells her that he plans to have necromancers come over from Spain to conduct a ritual that should end necromancy once and for all. After that, Lady Justice will be used in public relations and as a recruiting tool for the guild. Justice is upset at being replaced, but decides to cooperate for the sake of ending the necromancers. Dr. McMorning hears about this plan and tells Seamus and Nicodem, and the three of them sneak into the guild enclave the night the ritual would take place. McMorning uses his cover as a guild employee to get inside the room where the ritual is taking place, and he briefly considers going straight, but soon decides against it, and stops the ritual and kills the Spaniards. Lady Justice is shocked at his betrayal, and the two briefly fight before McMorning makes his escape. Governor General Marlowe goes to see Tony Ironsides and tells her that he wants her to cooperate with them to arrest Dr. Ramos. She refuses, but he offers to throw the guild's support behind universal suffrage in the United States. Knowing how much influence the guild would have over her home country, she agrees. Sonia Crid manages to find and arrest Ramos, while he's up in the mountains searching for the Soulstone Geode, a powerful magical object that would allow him to power his Leviathan indefinitely. Titania has recruited some of the Nephilim and made a pact with Nekima, who wants to overthrow her sister Lilith. Lilith and Zoraida plan to resist and expect help from Pandora, who fails to show up. A boy named the Dreamer does instead, and though the women don't know it, he's working with the tyrant, Nightmare. Nekima attacks earlier than they expected, and Lilith and Nekima face off. Nekima stabs her sister, and Zoraida and Nightmare chase her off before she has a chance to finish Lilith. They struggle to find a way to save her, and finally decide to take her to Cythera, where she can be entombed and kept alive indefinitely, just like Titania. According to Zoraida's premonitions, the only way that they defeat the tyrants is with Lilith alive. Governor General Marlowe bans mercenary work in the city of Malifaux. All the outcasts get together to decide what to do, and Von Schill decides that he'll move his operation to the Badlands and form a town called Freehold. Many of the other mercenaries join him. The Gremlins decide that they need a leader to unite under, so that they can better defend themselves from outside threats. They try to imitate a human election, and after some deal-making and subterfuge, Sommerteeth Jones's dim-witted son Lenny is elected Gremlin General. Misaki has been growing frustrated with her father's poor handling of the Ten Thunders. When he makes a poorly considered attempt to take over the city, Misaki gets the help of her loyal agents and stops his plot. In response, Misaki's father tries to cast her out of the family, so she challenges him to a duel. She wins handily, taking her father's place as leader of the Ten Thunders, and then orders her people to kill everyone who was loyal to him. Yan Lo and his niece Chiaki manipulate events to bring Nicodem and Lady Justice together. When Justice finds out where Nicodem is hiding, she attacks his mansion and he flees to a graveyard. She chases and corners him, and he uses his ability to control the undead to cause one of her marshals to shoot the judge, killing him. Lady Justice then kills Nicodem, slicing his body up into pieces and taking his head. Mortimer soon emerges and collects the Soulstone that was charged by Nicodem's death. Karai heads to Earth, where she's recruited by the Court of Two, a secret organization founded by a doppelganger that found its way to Earth centuries ago and has been hiding in the shadows and amassing power. They've hired Karai to help train their people to be able to summon and control spirits. Collodi has been killing settlers in the north, in spite of an understanding that he had had with Lucius. Lucius and Daciel go to find him, and when he refuses to stop what he's doing, they kill him. Lucius's mask is knocked off in the process, and Daciel becomes one of the very few people who have seen his face. They soon return to the city, and Lucius puts Collodi's head on a shelf in his basement. Lady Justice recruits and trains a new judge, and they go after McMorning. The operation leads to the death of several marshals, and they fail to kill or capture the doctor. Von Stuck recruits Anna Lovelace to his school, where they teach amalgamation, the practice of joining flesh with mechanical parts. Anna convinces him to become more active with the other necromancers and share knowledge. Karai comes back to Malifaux from Earth and tries to resurrect her boyfriend with knowledge that she gained from the Court of Two. Jackdaw interferes with her plan and manages to recapture his own soul at the expense of Karai's boyfriend. Karis, who has been leading the Arcanists and becoming more and more extreme, goes to confront Ironsides. They fight, and Ironsides explains that she gave up Ramos because he was no longer working in the best interest of the Miners and Steamfitters Union, but was squandering their assets in his quest for power. Karis doesn't want to hear it, so Ironside stops going easy on her, knocks her down, and the two agree to a tense truce. When Hoffman starts investigating Ramos's old safe houses, he finds evidence of amalgamation, people who have been cruelly used to power parts of constructs. Joss, Ramos's old right-hand man, convinces Hoffman to work with the Arcanists to find the rest of these safe houses and put the people out of their misery. The Tyrant Fortune uses the Crossroads 7 to cause a riot in the Star Theater. Pandora, under the influence of the Tyrant Despair, comes to the theater and stops him, and Colette blames the incident on the Guild failing to protect the people. Marcus has been doing research on chimerancy inside Titania's domain. He expects that they'll one day face each other, and eventually she sends for him. When he arrives at her court, they fight one-on-one, and Marcus has the upper hand until Titania's agent, Aislinn, interferes. Titania is impressed and a bit frightened, and agrees to share some of her knowledge with Marcus. Nikema hears a prophecy from Euripides that suggests that the hungering darkness will cause her downfall. She sends assassins to kill Jacob Lynch, but he's able to fight them off. He knows that he's now cut off from the Neverborn, but Mr. Graves and Mr. Tannen, who are Neverborn themselves, decide to stay loyal to him. Hamlin tells the members of Freehold that they have to kill Titania or suffer his wrath. They decide that they won't take orders from him, so he attacks their town with an army of vermin and stolen children. Tara tries to trap him, using Talos, a machine designed to contain tyrants, but he cuts himself off from some of his power and is able to escape. Meanwhile, the Vix were actually on their way to kill Titania anyway. They find her domain and battle her minions, and then summon Killjoy to help them in the battle. When Killjoy sees Titania, he follows her orders and turns on the Vix, and they lose the Masamune and have to flee. Titania recognizes the Tyrant Shezul in the sword, and enshrines it inside of a tree next to her throne. An Oni named Amanjaku manipulates Asami into helping him bring other Oni from the beyond. One of them is a man that Yan Lo used to know, and who had tried to invite an Oni invasion of Earth to stop the Mongol invasion of China. Yan Lo, Asami, and Chiaki defeat the man, but a powerful Oni named Lingshutsi speaks through Amanjaku and tells them that he is coming for their people on Earth. Lucas McCabe is caught selling fake artifacts to the Guild, and is fired from his job. He needs to find a way to continue to be useful to the Ten Thunders, and is recruited by the Malifaux Explorer Society, and goes on an expedition to explore the sunken city in the bayou. Misaki finds out that Mei Fang is diverting Ten Thunder's resources to send support to the Three Kingdoms on Earth. She goes to stop the woman, and they fight, and Misaki defeats her, but spares her life. She tells her that she'll agree to send some support, but only on her own terms, and makes Mei Fang pledge her loyalty to the Ten Thunders in front of all of her men. Lord Cooper is back on his feet after suffering from an attempt on his life by Marcus. It caused him to be bedridden for years and give up control of the Explorer Society to Gretchen Janus. Now that he has a new metal body, he sets off to get his revenge and attempts to capture Miranda, Marcus's lover. He spends weeks chasing her through the forest, and she only gets away when a Malosaurus Rex attacks the hunters. When she makes it back to Marcus, he is not happy. A scientist named Maxine is studying the portals made by the Burning Man. She thinks that she can predict where they will appear, and sails out into the Atlantic Ocean. Her ship is sucked into a portal, and she arrives in the oceans of Malifaux, and is eventually rescued by the Explorer Society after fighting off a giant sea monster. An ancient being known as Jedza consults with a mysterious figure in the northern mountains, where she obtains a piece of an ancient machine and some information for her friend Zoraida. When Maxine traveled to Malifaux, it weakened the barrier between worlds, and the Burning Man was slowly pulled towards the rift. Months later, it disappeared from the skies of Earth, and appeared in Malifaux. The sky darkened, and fire began to rain down, burning the landscape, and setting the Guild Enclave on fire. Several of the most powerful people in Malifaux had already been experiencing the effects of the Burning Man's influence, and now their sanity continues to slip. So that's pretty much the whole story of Malifaux. It was obviously a pretty high level look, really only covering the major events and things that caused significant changes in the world. I'm super excited to see what's going to happen in the next book for Malifaux. The Malifaux Burns book was mostly just about the Burning Man arriving and some of the effects that has on the people of Malifaux, but I think we're going to start seeing some of the real implications of that in the next book, so hopefully we'll be learning more about that later this year. If there's anything in there that sounded particularly interesting to you, make sure you check out some of my other videos, as they all contain references for where you can find the stories that they cover. If you're not sure where to look, drop a comment below and let me know, and I'll try to point you in the right direction for where you can read more. Or jump in the Discord. I'm always happy to chat with people about this stuff. Make sure you keep an eye out, because in a few weeks, I'm going to do another video like this, covering the history of the tyrants and what they've all been up to recently. I know that's a subject that a lot of you requested, so I'm pretty excited about that. Meanwhile, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, check the description for all the social media, and of course, thanks for watching.